listening to Talking Law, the podcast where business owners just like you discover how to avoid legal landmines and build value using smart legal tips. Join your host, Joanna Oakey, as she cuts through the legal jargon and gives you clear and simple, actionable legal strategies, which will get you optimal business results.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here and welcome back to Talking Law, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we have part 2 of our 2-part series all about the importance of insurance for your business and maybe some things that you may never have realised in the past were so important when you're considering the right insurance for your business. Now, if you didn't get to hear part 1, make sure you head back to the episode just before this one in Talking Law, and you'll find part 1 of our 2-part series where we looked at some examples of what type of insurance might be best for your business. We talked about why insurance really fits well into a risk management strategy for business. We talked about some interesting stories you may not have thought about in the past. Now, in this part 2 of our 2-part series, we drill right into the types of insurance that might be available for your business that you may not have realised in the past. We talk about where businesses often get insurance completely wrong, and we get into a few stories. So buckle in for part 2 of our 2-part series, all about making the right decisions for insurance for your business.
Meena, welcome on board to part 2 of our 2-part series, talking all about the brand new Aspect SME Insurance. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Joanna. Aspect SME Insurance is a great business as it, I think, meets the unmet demand from SMEs for insurance policies.
Such a confusing area. And in part 1, we really dug into some of these reasons why I think it's so important for businesses to consider insurance as part of their whole risk management strategy. But today, what I really want to, I just want to touch on some of the types of insurance that are out there, because I think this will be a bit of a surprise perhaps to many of our business listeners, because it certainly was a surprise to me. And of course, I work in risk management from a legal perspective, but just the breadth of the areas that are available for insurance for really reasonable prices was something that really fascinated me, because I knew some of this insurance existed, but in my mind, it was quite an expensive option. But as we started talking, I just realised how cost-effective many of these policies really are. But let's start off perhaps by talking about some of the types of insurance that are available, Meena. Maybe with the number one. Let's start with number 1. What do you think is sort of the key insurance that businesses should have, and what policies go with that?
Good question. Let's take a hypothetical example of a startup, SME business. A person has worked in an industry and for 20 years, and they're starting a new business where they think that, their experience and skills can come in handy. They want to invest a bit of money. They get a loan from the bank, and here they have an SME. And they come to you, Joanna, for your legal advice and contracts and everything. And they say now, Joanna, what insurances do we require? Because they've been told that, their business must get insurance. That's where the conversation starts. And you try to find out what industry the business is in, how many employees they're going to have, and what is their revenue going to be for next 12 months. So it's a brand new business, so normally they would not have a claim history. Otherwise, you would ask them, do you have a claim history on any of your insurances? So to start with, we recommend to every business to have what is called the management liability policy.
And talk us through that, Meena. What does that mean? What is a management liability policy?
So a management liability policy covers liability risk, which the business owner is going to take on as a business, as an owner of a business that operates within a legislative environment.
And the colloquial expression for this, and I think this is perhaps the terminology that business owners are most often used to hearing, is that director and officer insurance. So protecting against those risks that you hold as a director of or officer of a business.
That is right. It is like, the director's personal liability, the personal liability of the officers and directors of the business, but it is also the corporate liability that, what is your liability as a corporate or a business whilst operating in an environment that's driven by a lot of compliance and a lot of legal obligations. And, I did my company director course from the Australian Institute of Company Directors last year, and I have been a board member of Bendigo Bank community branch. And I realized that the whole directors and officers responsibilities and their role is a complex landscape, Joanna.
Yeah.
And any breach of that responsibility by the directors or by the business can lead to fines and penalties and legal expenses, which a business may not be prepared for. So management liability policy or directors and officers liability policy coverage for alleged wrongdoings by the corporate, the entity itself, or by directors and officers, which can stem from a breach of any of the responsibility under law or guidelines that are generally accepted to be adhered to. Or else there's also the fiduciary duty of care that, for example, as an employee, you are bound to behave in a certain way towards your employees, towards your customers, towards your shareholders, and what are those duties and how you can be in breach of those duties as a business director. So management liability policy covers for employment practices liability. It has coverage for directors and officers liability, corporate liability. It covers for tax audit cost, and it also covers for instances such as, cyber risk, which can be an add-on. And it also would cover for insolvency cover should the business not be able to pay off its debts, and if that incurs any direct liability on the directors and officers, then the insolvency cover triggers.
Oh, look, and these are just such important things because we've had a number of clients who have faced massive claims against them in relation to alleged breaches of the director's duties. And it's just the problem is that is a personal, that's a personal exposure. And it's just incredibly emotional for a director when they become aware, when they may not have been fully aware before, how exposed they are personally and their personal assets are. And there's so many instances that I've seen that I just, this sort of insurance could have saved massive heartache for the individual directors involved. So I just think it's such an important insurance. There were some other things you talked about there, Meena, the tax audit insurance, which I think, can be a bit of a stress for businesses sometimes, this concern that maybe they've not, done things absolutely correctly. There might be some sort of hidden risk element in their business that might trigger or might be picked up during an audit, or just that there's an audit and they're lumbered with the huge costs that relate to it. And also cyber. I really want to talk about cyber because that is cyber insurance is one of those things where, this area of cyber risk is a newish sort of area. It's really come to the fore in the last, say, I guess, maybe 4 or so years. Is that right, Meena? And that's, we see all the time. We've had a number of clients that have suffered massive losses due to cyber crime attacking their business. And this is just when you talk about sleep easy at night insurance, this has got to be one of those sleep easy at night insurances for businesses to have.
I agree, Joanna. And you're so right in saying that in the last 4 years or so, cyber risk has become the top risk for businesses. And if we did a survey and asked, what keeps you awake at night, cyber risk would be number one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's in the headlines all the time, but I don't think it's just scaremongering in the headlines. We see it in our client base. And that's certainly one of the things that I've seen in terms of issues that businesses have suffered. This is one of the things that I've seen climbing over the past few years that had sort of, there'd not been a lot of it prior to that, but we've seen instances of, clients that have lost 60, 100, hundreds of thousands of dollars in attacks on their business from a cybercrime perspective. And I just want to talk about some other insurances as well, because that management liability, directors and officers liability insurance is, certainly something that I think is really important to discuss. And of course, we provide insurance relating to that general liability and the business insurance and your professional indemnity insurance. And all of that is perhaps part of a more well-known, understand body of insurance. Notwithstanding, I think the reality is, as we've had many discussions before, businesses don't necessarily always get it right in terms of what type of policy they've chosen, nor in terms of what they're actually paying for versus what they're getting, that whole ROI topic that we talked about in our last episode. But what I just want to touch briefly on now is some of the other insurances that businesses may not have realised existed. So here's some great ones. I just want to touch on them really briefly. IP insurance. I think this is a great one because we deal with businesses in brand protection all the time. And indeed, I talk about trademark registration as one of the best insurances you can get for the business, but you can actually get insurance on your insurance, because the thing is, getting a trademark registration isn't the end of the story, and maybe if you can just walk us through really quickly some of the things in this IP insurance that businesses may not have realized.
Yes, very true. Like you said, just simply registering your trademark is not the end of the story. What you have as a result of your trademark registration is protection that trademark is now your intellectual property right. And you can claim ownership over a brand or a logo or lettering, that a name that signifies or represents your business. However, there are so many instances of businesses complaining that, a competitor down the road has come up with a very similar branding, which has confused their customers in believing that, they just go into the same business. And very soon, half the customers have walked to this new business next doors because, symbolically, that business is quite similar.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, this is what we talk about all the time with our clients because we see claims all the time. So we do a lot of work in cease and desist action to stop other parties from infringing on our clients' trademarks. But sometimes it's around the other side from defense as well. But this is the amazing thing, that this sort of insurance can cover all of these sorts of actions. Is that right, Meena?
Yes, absolutely. So trademark insurance covers for litigation risk, which is, like you said, defending against a third party claiming that your business has infringed their trademark, or else, if you feel that, another business is infringing on your branding, then you enforce your trademark rights. If you have a registered trademark, it gives you the right to enforce, and the insurance actually pays for the legal expenses, the legal representation. And it's great, because SMEs need that protection and the ability to offset their financial loss and the financial risk, basically.
How good is that? That's just amazing. I love that. I just think that's it's a great opportunity for SMEs because, you've got this asset and then this insurance gives you that strength, that protection to ensure that once you get that registration, you can actually ensure that you can take action to stop others, from using it. Because I think that whole concept of legal cost does feature in people's minds completely understandably, but to be able to have insurance to cover that, just amazing. And just one other thing that I want to touch on, one other type of insurance that I want to touch on before we sign off here is some of these industry specific specific insurances that we have. We've got tech liability, medical indemnity insurance. So there's, other than just talking about general business risks, we've also got these specific tailored types of insurances by industry or by transaction. Of course, we've also got a merger and acquisition, business sale and acquisition insurance that's available for that transaction risk, particularly for sellers of SME businesses. So it's just, there's so much protection here that businesses don't generally understand, and that's so much more affordable than they perhaps even realised. That I just think it's one of these things that you're nuts if you don't go and get a bit of a review of where you're at and where you could be in terms of protection.
Yes, exactly. It's always a good idea to get an insurance health check. It is your insurance broker telling you, what insurances you need, or if review of your current insurances and, whether you have the right policies, the right cover in place, and if you're paying too much. Many times I notice that, clients are paying too much on the insurances, or they have combined different policies in an ineffective way, because of which their insurance premiums have gone up, or they've got two different offices and they've got two different insurances, whilst if they combine the two different locations under one policy, they would pay less. Yeah. So things like that I notice all the time, and I wish clients would review the insurances every now and then, and that can result in savings, but also, better protection, because
Yeah,
don't have the right insurance or the right coverage or the right limits in place. So it's actually goes a long way to look at your insurance as a means to, protect your profit and save you that extra cost later on.
Brilliant. Well, look, Meena, I'm so excited with this launch of Aspect SME Insurance. And I think because you come at it from that management consulting background, you come at it from that perspective of really understanding ROI, why SMEs need to make sure they're making the right decisions about where they spend their money, where you're coming at it from the perspective of all these amazing examples that you have of people who've come to you and you've been able to find them not just better insurance, but then savings at the same time. I'm just so excited about what we can now offer to our clients. And just a couple of call outs. Number one, a reminder that you can book in a free insurance health check with Meena. Just check out our show notes and we'll link right through to that booking engine so you can book in directly with Meena. There's no cost, no obligation, but it's highly likely we're going to be able to find you either A, a better outcome, or B, better costing. Meena, I just want to say a massive thank you. And I'm so excited. Welcome on board to the Aspect family.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm very excited too. And I look forward to being part of the Aspect family and to grow that great brand that you built through years of hard work and your great personality.
That's so sweet, Meena. But, and I guess on that point, we are business owners. We get it. We understand what it's like to run a business because we run a business. And I think that's one of the things that many times people have commented to me, that sometimes they feel like it's a bit different to talking to normal lawyers when they come to us. And the reason for that is because we get the imperatives here of managing cost with outcome. And that's really where we're coming at this insurance element from. It's ensuring, number one, you understand risk from a broad perspective, but number two, also how to get that risk protection in the most commercial way. And that's it. Book yourself in for a strategy call. Meena, it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. We'll do a few more of these because I really want to dig into some of these stories and case studies along the way. Thanks for coming, Meena.
Thanks, Joanna.
Well, that's it for part 2 of this 2-part series, where we look at the types of insurance that are available for your business and where SMEs often go wrong. And we give you some killer case studies where you can actually see this insurance at play and the benefits of getting the right insurance in place from some case studies of similar business owners. Well, that's it. Look, I just want to say thank you once again. You've been listening to Joanna Oakey and Talking Law. proudly sponsored by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal, and our brand new business insurance practice, Aspect SME Insurance. See you next time. Are you looking for a top quality legal team to assist you in your organisation? Aspect Legal is an innovative commercial legal practice that specialises in providing fast and professional services for their clients. If you'd like to chat about how we might be able to assist you, simply head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au to book in a time for a free discussion with one of our lawyers.
Thanks for listening to Talking Law. Tune in next time for more smart legal tips and tricks to keep you clear of those legal landmines. If you want to get a download of today's show notes, head over to talkinglaw.com.au. Information in this podcast is general in nature, not legal advice. If you want advice for your business, visit talkinglaw.com.au.